Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Jeannie Burgo, and I'm the president of Internews, and it's really my honor to welcome you to this conversation. We're going to focus on the incredible FilmAid and the work that they're doing to serve communities amidst this COVID-19 pandemic. As many of you on the call know, this year, FilmAid officially becomes a project of Internews, a relationship we've been building for some time, but we launched last fall at a beautiful event in New York. For those of you who know Internews, I hope you'll be inspired and energized by this work that's coming into our family. And for those of you closer to FilmAid, I hope over time you're going to get a sense of the opportunity this partnership brings, because we really plan to expand the work of FilmAid all over the world. FilmAid's work, of course, looks pretty different today than it did last fall when we came together to celebrate the 20-year anniversary of FilmAid bringing the power and potential of film to underserved communities around the world. And today we're going to focus on how that organization, which flourished so much through these in-person, intimate, hands-on, intensive filmmaking, how FilmAid has transitioned to our more remote world, bringing that same passion and resolve, but in different formats, of course, and in different ways to address the very urgent issues that we're facing during the coronavirus pandemic. I am so proud and so impressed with FilmAid's vital and creative work. And what I'm most excited about today's call is that we get to share some of that with you, some of the recent impressive productions we'll get to take a peek at today, which is great. On the call, I'm pleased to introduce Fatima Roba, who is FilmAid Kenya's field manager for the Dadaab refugee camp. We had also hoped to be joined by Mercy Mwanzia, our video editor and film trainer for FilmAid Kenya at the Kakuma refugee camps. Unfortunately, internet is down, and so she's going to join us via auto recording. And of course, we're joined by our own Keith Murren, who is the executive director of FilmAid internationally. Fatima, thank you for joining us all the way from Kenya. Keith, thank you for joining us all the way from New York City. We have a number of board members who are either on the call now or planning on joining. We want to thank you, board members from both FilmAid and from Internews. We really want to thank you for joining us today, and of course for your support in making all of this happen. Before we get started, I just want to share a couple of words about Internews' work in light of the COVID pandemic. And right now, without a vaccine, the quality public health information can really be the difference between life and death. Whether it's delivered through the news media or through creative artists, this information we see can really save lives. And so with your support, we're helping our media partners all over the world communicate with their communities about how to best protect themselves. In dozens of countries, we're countering the disinformation, the terrible disinformation that is proliferating about COVID-19. We're helping foster business models because our partners everywhere are facing terrible, terrible economic challenges given the global economic downturn. And most importantly, we're launching massive amounts of journalism training programs to help journalists with our partners understand the complex science required for quality health reporting at this time. This work, it's so important. Internews' work is so important. FilmAid's work is so important. It's just none of it has ever felt more vital than it does today. But with that, let's hear a little bit more about it. I'm going to turn it over to Keith for an overview of FilmAid's recent work, and then we're going to hear directly from Mercy via audio recording and Fatuma from Kenya. And one small logistical note, there is a chat function on Teams that you can use to post questions as they come up, and we will have a Q&A at the end of this session that you can either raise your hand or post in the chat the questions, and I'll help facilitate that. Okay, Keith, enough from me, over to you.
Thank you, Jeannie. Thank you for that introduction. So I'm going to give an update about the work, the new places that FilmAid has expanded to, and the new work that we're doing, and then we're going to follow that with Fatuma. And Mercy is logged on. We'll see if we'll be able to hear from her, but we do have audio. So let me just start by reminding people that FilmAid does three things. We do skills development for youth from marginalized and vulnerable communities around the world. We create content that is effective in changing the narrative for those vulnerable communities. And then we do community engagement, which is our famous mobile cinemas, but is a lot of other things. And you'll hear that on the call. It's radio, it's SMS, it's in-person, it's loudspeaker trucks moving through camps. And so you hear a lot about that, about our community engagement work right now because of under lockdown. That's really where we've shifted our focus. So let me take it away with our new work in Zimbabwe. A little bit of background: in 2017, longtime dictator Robert Mugabe stepped down from power, but his party remained in charge. But with changes like this, even small ones, comes opportunities. So what we're doing in southern Zimbabwe is working with communities who have not had a voice under the dictatorship in the past, and we're working specifically with youth to create a mobile cinema network. So we're training youth on a solar-powered cinema developed by our partner Sunshine Cinema in South Africa. We're training them not only to use the cinema, the kit, but to mobilize audiences, facilitate discussions, and organize people to continue those conversations into the future. We've trained our first 2 trainers, and they've launched a podcast series during the COVID-19 lockdown. And we have really good news. We just received additional funding from the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences to do our first visual storytelling workshop. So we hope to do a remote workshop with our partners in South Africa, our partners in Zimbabwe, and train between 12 and 20 young people to create short stories with their cell phones. And we hope to feature that in our film festival come September. So we're excited about the work that we're doing in Zimbabwe. There's a great opportunity, but we're really just beginning this year and just having our first workshop coming up in July. We're equally excited about our new work in Colombia. So again, a little bit of the background. The pandemic has hit Colombia really hard. There are over 70,000 confirmed cases, 30,000 people have recovered, and 2,400 people have died. The nation's been on lockdown since March 12th, and that's delayed some of the work that we hope to do this year, but we continue to be excited because we conducted a mission to La Guajira, which is a border region that straddles actually the border between Venezuela and Colombia. And we did a mission in February to meet with a group of 35 young filmmakers and journalists who have formed a network, La Red de Comunicaciones del Pueblo Wayuu. So they're from an indigenous community that, like I said, the community splits the border. And there's enormous need in La Guajira. 1.1 million people have crossed the border into Colombia from Venezuela, and that's about a quarter of the 4.5 million people that have fled Venezuela since 2014. La Guajira is also the poorest region in Colombia, so the resources available have been incredibly strained, and the community has been, I don't want to say in conflict, but has also experienced a lot of strain during this time. So we're excited to work with the network of communicators in the Wayuu community to build their skills and also to build a mobile cinema network for distribution of content about fundamental rights, about health, and about local culture, all in the Wayuu Nike language. We're going to continue, like we're doing in Zimbabwe, to look for funding opportunities to increase the amount of work that we're doing and expand our impact. Now we're going to turn to Kenya, where FilmAid has been present continuously since 2002, and we have
is now joining.
And we have about 70 people working full time in the 2 large refugee camps in Kenya that each house about 200,000 people. Before I introduce Mercy and Fatuma, I just want to give a brief overview. In Kenya, currently there are about 4,300 confirmed cases of COVID-19. There are 2,700 active cases and 1,500 people who have recovered, and just about 120 people that have died as a result of COVID-19. Kenya went on a lockdown very early, and by very early, I mean as soon as there were a few cases in the country, the government responded and placed the entire nation on lockdown. We'll hear more from both Mercy and Fatuma about what the situation is in each of the camps as it relates to COVID-19, but let me first introduce them. Mercy is FilmAid Kenya's film trainer and resident editor. She runs our film training course in Kakuma and will speak a bit more about how our film training has changed under the lockdown and under the current conditions. Fatuma Roba is FilmAid Kenya's field manager in Dadaab refugee camp, again, home to over 200,000 people, mostly from Somalia. She'll speak about the recent evidence of community spread in Dadaab, what FilmAid Kenya is doing to inform the community, combat misinformation, and also to support the refugee community's own efforts to protect the most vulnerable among them. So with that, Fatuma, I turn it over to you to hear the news from Dadaab.
Thank you, Keith. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Fatuma Roba. I'm coming live to you all the way from Dadaab refugee camp. allow me to first and foremost give you updates on the recent cases of COVID-19 in the Dadaab refugee camp. As we are speaking now, we have 18 confirmed cases. Out of these 18 confirmed cases in the Dadaab refugee camp, 14 are refugees, and we have 4 healthcare workers. These are 2 doctors and 2 nurses that were affected by getting it direct from contact with the positive cases that we have so far. We have a total of 130 individuals who have been placed in quarantine facilities in Dadaab across different primary schools that have been set to be quarantine areas. And out of this 130, 58 individuals arrived yesterday in the Dadaab refugee camp from Somalia. And when they were questioned about their movement into the camp, considering this COVID-19 and the rules of the government that are put in place in crossing the border, is they cited that there are high security issues and also famine and drought that is being experienced in the Dadaab refugee camps. So basically, the government of Kenya had a cessation movement of in and out of the Dadaab refugee camps. So currently there is no movement of individuals coming into the Dadaab refugee camp or leaving the Dadaab refugee camp, except a few healthcare workers and the frontline service providers in humanitarian field, and the individual have to be tested. Once they turn positive, that's when they're allowed to come into Dadaab, and they must self-quarantine themselves for 14 days. This is just to follow the protocol that has been put in place by the Ministry of Health. Basically, that is it about the COVID-19 update. So I wanted to take this opportunity also to take you through some of the activities or measures that we've been put in place as FilmAid in terms of responding to COVID-19 across the camp, considering that there's a lot of misinformation and mistrust of the Somali community, who are predominantly larger in numbers in the Dadaab refugee camp, is that they have mistrust in authority, and this has been caused by the civil war that they've experienced for 30 years. So we've been following and monitoring misinformation that is coming in from the community using our radio call-in shows, and also using our focus group discussion, the virtual trainings that we conduct online to gauge the community. And one of the recent misinformation or rumors that the community are sharing is that because we are Muslims, we are practicing washing our hands 5 times because of the prayer. We are not being affected by coronavirus. So in order to clear this misconception and also clear these rumors, FilmAid engage the religious leaders, because the community tends to trust people that they come from within them, the areas that they live, and some of the trusted individuals in the camp are the religious leaders such as the imam. So FilmAid is engaging directly these imams in order to correct the misinformation and misconception that the community have in regards to COVID-19. So we engage the imam and the sheikhs using public address announcements, where we mount speakers on the vehicles, and then we go around and then we speak to the community using the different languages that we have. We have our bulk SMS system, whereby we share prompt messages. Of course, these messages are guided by the World Health Organization as well as the Ministry of Health in Kenya, and then we share the messages in different languages, like almost 12 languages that is being spoken across the 2 camps. Also, we have live radio talkback shows that we invite the imams, and we have the local leaders or the existing community structures that the people trust in terms of sharing the information with them. And then we have a live discussion show where the community can call and share and air their worries and air some of the things they say, misconception they have, and we use this platform to clear some of the misconception that they have about COVID-19. Maybe I wanted allow me to share also an interesting fact about FilmAid alumni, where these are some of the students that we've trained, and they're doing a tremendous job. One of the impressive, Abdullah Mire, decided to pack and move back to Dadaab. Immediately there was a coronavirus cases in Kenya, and he decided it's time for me to go back to the camp and share with the community, because this is where I was in 2010, and he's been a student of FilmAid in 2010, and he's passionate about storytelling using his technical expertise or skills in media and journalism. And Mire has been using the local radio station in Dadaab to talk about the misinformation, the misconcept, giving community time to air their views and stuff like that. So without further ado, I just want you to just watch a 1-minute video about Abdullah Mire and the work that he's been doing to the community. Back to you. Thank you.
Hi there, my name is Abdullah Mire. I'm a freelance journalist who was raised up and who grew here in Dadaab. I'm back here to support the community at this difficult time. Currently, we're facing the COVID-19 pandemic globally. It is so difficult here in the camps because the larger part of the community do not accept this coronavirus. Through correct, timely information campaign, I believe we can overcome the virus COVID-19. That's why I am ready to volunteer in radio programs to educate them, to inform them, and to entertain them this difficult time. As a journalist, I believe if we all join hands and do the campaign together, we can overcome this virus, COVID-19.
Thank you, Fatuma, for that update, and thank you for ending with Mire's story. I think the thing that's impressed me since I joined FilmAid about 4.5 years ago is how dedicated our students are to helping their own communities. And our job is really to just give them some skills and a leg up in that regard. But Mire took our course 10 years ago and actually did a training with Internews a few years after that. And as soon as there was a single case in Kenya, he decided to pack his bags in Nairobi and move back to the camp to volunteer at the radio station. And really the strength of FilmAid's ability to create trust with communities, share actionable information, and respond in a crisis like this is the strength of the students that we've trained and the staff members, that many of them become staff members. And they're really the backbone of our programs and allow us to do the work that we do. So I was just struck by Mire's dedication. And now we're going to hear from Mercy on audio. She sent us messages this morning for her because the internet went out in Kakuma this morning for the entire camp. So we'll hear actually a little bit more about our work with students doing skills training from Mercy, who is our film trainer in Kakuma. Take it away, audio recorded Mercy.
My name is Mercy Mwanzia, and I work for FilmAid Kenya as a film trainer and as a video editor as well. I'll start by giving a quick update on the COVID-19 cases in the camp. So far, only 2 people have tested positive for COVID-19. These 2 are refugees. One of them has successfully been treated and discharged, and the other one is still undergoing treatment. However, this is not a serious case. So what activities is FilmAid doing in the camp? Just like in Dadaab, FilmAid continues to conduct mass awareness campaigns throughout Kakuma refugee camp, using speakers mounted on our Toyota Land Cruisers, doing public service announcements, sending out SMS blasts, and conducting radio shows as well. As a film trainer, I wanted to speak on the challenges and opportunities we've encountered moving our courses online during the lockdown. One major challenge that we have in Kakuma is that internet is a scarce resource. This therefore makes it difficult for students to engage online, considering now they are not allowed to gather in groups larger than 5. We have addressed this challenge by buying monthly data plans to all the students and also having one-on-one engagements with them on WhatsApp or via phone calls. By doing this, I have managed to understand more deeply their strengths and their struggles as well. What do we plan to do after this pandemic? After the pandemic, we plan to continue to expand our online courses so that our classwork can focus more intensely on ideas, practical trainings, and addressing individual students' needs as well as their ambitions. Every few months, FilmAid Kenya recruits visiting teaching artists to come to the camp to conduct master classes and workshops as well. So another opportunity we have identified going forward is that by moving the courses online, we hope to expand the opportunity for artists around the world to contribute to the professional and artistic development of our students. So how are the students responding to COVID-19? Recent graduates of FilmAid Media Training Program are using their communication and storytelling skills to host online fundraisers in order to provide masks and basic necessities to the most vulnerable. They are advocating using their writing, photography, and video skills on social media and messaging apps as well. A good example is Exile Key Films. Exile Key Films is a legally registered film and music studio based in the camp, owned by the refugees. They recently made an inspiring music video to give hope to everyone suffering during the pandemic. I'll hand it over to Keith, who will tell you more about this.
So Mercy, if you're able to log in, thank you for that. I know you're listening, but we're worried about the signal going in and out, but thank you for that update. As you heard at the end, Mercy was referencing Exile Key Films. So the founders of Exile Key Films were former FilmAid students who decided to group together and start a film and music studio in Kakuma. And so recently, we had been just talking to Yo-Yo Ma, who was going to come to the camps as a guest of FilmAid and collaborate with artists in the camp, using Exile Key Films as kind of the platform for bringing in all those different artists. When the pandemic hit and Yo-Yo's concerts were canceled and the possibility of visiting the camp was no longer on the table, we actually set up a call between Exile Key Films and Yo-Yo Ma, where he invited them to create a piece of music or performance to contribute to his Songs of Comfort campaign, which he launched at the start of the pandemic, inviting musicians and other artists to simply share their work online as we all suffer through this together and need to find hope and resilience in our shared experience. And we do that through art and music and film. And so the result of that phone call was that Exile Key Films and 3 amazing artists from the camps, Emily Aza, Mercy Akot, and Queen Lisa, wrote an original song, created an original music video, and launched it just this past week for World Refugee Day. And we're going to take a look at it right now, and we're going to share the link with you after this so that you can watch it and share it with your friends as well.
It's more than a month. Hopefully, means it's our family. Yeah. Lockdown of towns everywhere. Oga ulioje kuona jinsi gani tunaumia. Maelfu ya watu kwa Mola wameshatangulia. It's time we need to stand together as one. It's time we need to stand together as humanity.
Keep your hope and faith alive. Dunia kunwa defeat. Anina kuna sawa ya jamaa, ya jamaa.
Shaki Sukun, I know doctor. Kanita Indugoha, I know doctor.
Elastic sound,
I know doctor.
Maintain 1 meter away. Wash hands and please stay. Sokola maboko na yo.
Before you touch your face.
Mubikurikize, tupate corona nije kure. Tupate na maboko, ungasi wachuna turandure. Turi bamwe, abavandimwe.
Yatapita, yatapita, yatapita.
Oh, 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 oh. Oh, believe. Oh, 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 oh. Oh, believe.
If I compare COVID-19 and war, COVID-19 is more dangerous than war.
This virus, it's pandemic. That means it's attacking everyone from anywhere.
We are strong. We can go through this.
The only way we can overcome corona, wash your hands with soap.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
It's by hope, peace and love. The only way we can overcome corona, wash your hands with soap.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Wow, Keith, that's always so beautiful. Whenever I see it, I love it so much.
Yeah, it makes me so happy that our students have formed this studio and built it out themselves, all from their earnings that they've made producing music videos and also producing work for UNHCR, for the World Food Program. You know, they've got a full recording studio. They've got 2 professional cameras that they use. Really, their success is one of our greatest successes, and seeing the work that they do is just testament to why they're so successful.
And just the power and impact that it can have, right? It moves me to action. And so watching that film, I imagine that actually, we're going to go to questions in a minute, right? But can I ask you a really specific question about that? How have we been able to show the video in the refugee camps themselves? Again, I recognize that we're challenged when it comes to the technology. Have there been opportunities to really share it across the camps?
Yeah, so there have been some opportunities. As we referenced at the beginning, currently the internet is down in Kakuma, and generally speaking, yes, people have mobile phones and they have smartphones, but data is very expensive in Kenya. So our ability to share video has been limited under the pandemic, and we've been building out our WhatsApp capabilities to conduct workshops on WhatsApp and to share video content on WhatsApp, in addition to Facebook and Twitter, Facebook being a primary way of sharing. And so that's how the community is engaging right now. But there was also a live event on Friday for World Refugee Day that UNHCR hosted that we showcased the video and that people in the camp were able to tune into. But no, it has been a challenge for us, but something that we're working on now, and actually have a grant application out to help us build out that WhatsApp capability and the team supporting it even more.
Great. I think we're turning to a Q&A session now, right? If I'm right on the schedule. Just want to remind people that we'd love, you can use the hands up function or the chat function to write a question. I want to thank Mercy, Keith, Fatuma for your presentations. You really brought us to the places where all of this work is going on. And we're so proud and grateful for the work that you're doing. I, of course, have a few questions, and I'll just keep going with mine. And I don't think Mercy will be able to take questions. So Fatima, you're going to probably get the bulk, and Keith will get a few as well. But Fatima, I think the whole world is so worried about what happens if the pandemic really takes off in a camp. And it sounds like it's really impressive, the numbers so far, both in Dadaab and Kakuma, that it hasn't become worse. But can you tell us a little bit about the work that's happening at the camps to keep these numbers low, and sort of and the work planning in case it takes off? Sort of what do you expect to see happen in the next couple of weeks or months?
Thank you for the question. Currently, what the government is doing across the country, and this one will be applicable also to Dadaab, is that they're trying to because most of the cases are asymptomatic. Most of the individuals who turn positive are asymptomatic cases. So they're trying to train some of the healthcare workers who are refugees in the camp, so that they can take they look after the individual at household level, and those who will not be asymptomatic and they might need advanced medical care, let's say the use of ventilation and stuff like that, then the doctors now will take lead of that. But currently, the camp administration is trying its best. Of course, as we are sharing the information and sensitizing the community, but the camp administration is taking, they are trying to enforce social distancing. Of course, it's not easy to, considering the population and the structure of the camp, for people to social distance, but they try to encourage people to minimize even movement in and out of their own houses to go to the market. For example, instead of the 2 or 3 people from a family going to the market, they emphasize and they encourage individual, just one person to go to the market instead of several other people. And also now the government is now moving from putting people into quarantine facilities. So currently, as of today, they've taken 15 individual cases that are shown asymptomatic cases for home healthcare experiments to see how the response is going to be, and asking the people who have these individuals who turn negative, but they have maybe some signs and symptoms of related to COVID-19, and then they monitor them at the household level. So those are some of the means and ways that UNHCR, of course, together with the government and the health partners in the Dadaab are currently doing. Over to you, Jim.
Can I add a question? Is it possible, Fatuma, to talk about the project to distribute 300,000 masks in the camp that's being produced by the community itself, and what role FilmAid's playing there?
Thank you for that. We formed a task force of 5 agencies, and the task force main objective was to fundraise to produce 300,000 masks. This mask are reusable masks. The cloth reusable masks that each community in the household can be able to have 1 pair each. And so far, the task force has managed to produce 200,000 masks, which will be distributed. Already 50,000 masks have been distributed to the community at the community level, and the other 150 masks will be distributed next week. Each and every household, if you have some family size 8, so you're going to receive 8 masks, except the minors, the under 2, who the WHO and the government Ministry of Health have given guidelines in how to use the mask and stuff like that. And also what we are doing is we are going to share and emphasize the community the importance of wearing the mask, and also bringing out mobilizing the community tailors that we have on ground, and emphasizing or just motivating them in a way that they can contribute towards response to COVID-19. Because currently we are not speaking as only partners giving response, but also refugees joining hands, so that we become one. It's a we approach in terms of responding to COVID-19. So for us, it's for FilmAid now in this task force is to ensure that the information reaches the community, that distribution per household is going to happen where, and a modality of the distribution that is going to take place, the usage of the mask, especially at household level, and also encouraging the community to, on a daily basis, through our mass awareness and different information methodologies that we put in place, to share with the community the importance of wearing masks and the percentage, the risk that the mask prevent people from contacting COVID-19 if they cover their mouth and nose. So basically that's what we do, but hopefully the task force is aiming to produce 300 and above, because considering that the school will be open in September in Kenya. So, and one of the education rules and regulation is that each learner must have a mask. So of course there is need of producing more than 300, considering if I have 1 mask, then if I use it during the day, I have to wash it and reuse it tomorrow. So how are we going to keep tab that the community do wash their mask? So if an individual or a household has more than one mask, then they are more safer, more protected, and more aware in terms of preventing themselves using the mask. Over to you, Jean.
That's impressive. That's a really big number of masks. I'm so impressed, and that help with the distribution will be amazing. Keith, I wanted to maybe turn to you since we don't have Mercy on it. Mercy mentioned in her statement about how there's despite the lockdown, there's sort of new opportunities because suddenly the world is open to helping and support and sharing ideas. Can you talk a little bit about sort of how we can leverage this remote working time to bring new skill sets to support our partners and anywhere in the world that we're working with, but videographers who might want to contribute something? Are there creative ways that we can structure that so we can provide a different type of support than our normal hands-on, rolling up our sleeves together type of support?
Yeah, I think what the pandemic and the associated lockdowns and policies around the world has in some ways forced us to do, or accelerated our plans to do this, is to move our coursework online so that we can reuse courses in different locations, and also plug in our international supporters who come from the film industry, that can do a training on entrepreneurship and starting a new business. And so we can actually build out a really robust online course offering. And that'll dovetail nicely with our transition right now. Many of the people on the call are probably familiar with our 10-month film training course and journalism training course in Kakuma and Dadaab that we've been running for over a decade. But we're moving to see how we can support alumni, as we call them, graduates, like Abdullah, who you see in the picture on the left, and others who want to start those new businesses and continue to learn. As many of you know, when you graduate from film school at 22 in any country in the world, you don't get given a camera and a feature film to produce and take it from there. You have to continue to build your skills. So we're launching youth media hubs that will be fed by these online courses and online mentors that will help our students, once they've completed our workshops or our courses, to continue to develop personally and professionally so they can do things like create these music videos, like go back to the Dadaab refugee camp and host a radio show and keep contributing to social change within their communities. So we're looking at the pandemic as a kind of opportunity to regroup and say, how can we improve the programs when these policies are lifted, at the same time that Mercy and Fatuma and others are very focused on how can we support the community right now and our students right now. So we're looking at it at headquarters a little differently than we are in the field, but we're learning a lot from what they're doing right now, experimenting with these sort of online interventions.
Great, super. Just remind everybody, if you would like to ask a question, there is a chat function and a hand raise function as well. And I've just got a couple more myself. And Fatima, I wanted to turn a little bit more to your personal situation. I mean, all of us are working from different places than we normally work, in funny spaces in our homes. I understand that you're normally based in Nairobi and travel to the camps. How are you handling your sort of own personal staying engaged piece and along with the stay-at-home orders that you're under?
So considering that FilmAid is sort of frontline in terms of response during this COVID-19, because of the information that we give or share with the community on a daily basis. So of course, it's not easy staying away from home since for almost 4 months, not being able to see my family. Of course, some of my colleagues here, their fathers, their mothers, they could not be able to see their children. It's a bit tough. Of course, this is affecting the entire globe. So, of course, we love what we do, and currently we're quite busy. So it's activity after activity, this after that. Of course, we're exhausted, but what we do as a team, we jog around. DMO is quite. It's a 3-kilometer radius where we are being hosted inside. So in the evening, everyone will put their sports shoes on, and then we'll go around, talk about life. And then on Sunday, we'll experiment cooking different type of food so that we can, keep ourselves sane and continue, and also, watch our flow of information and what is coming from the community and misconception that is here and there in order to respond on time. Of course, we are not doctors and nurses, but of course, we consider ourselves as the frontliners in responding to COVID-19 in one way or the other. Majority of the staff are quite passionate in terms of their work and stuff, but of course, family, of course, the perception of human being of being locked down, you cannot be able to move out of the Dadaab, neither can you, also go into the camps. We can only go in terms of rotational basis. All of us cannot go at the one go, because we have to protect the staff and at the same time protect the refugees as much as we are giving them information on a daily basis. So of course we do different kind of we've become creative. I think coronavirus has put everyone being creative in terms of coming up with different measures to cope. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. Well, I'm wrapping up my questions. Keith, I want to turn to you. Have any final questions you want to ask Fatima, or vice versa?
I just want to see if Mercy can hear us, was able to join, and just give us a little bit about moving into production, because our students are moving into production on their films in the course that started in January. And so I'll just throw it out there. Mercy, are you able to participate? And if not, I'll have to answer my own question.
Yes, I'm able. Allow me to participate on audio, because I'm afraid when I participate on video, the internet might drop.
Great. Welcome, Mercy. We're glad to hear you again.
Thank you very much. Okay, so moving into production, the productions are set to begin next month. Of course, it's going to be a challenge because of the new measures that have been put in place. Like, for example, as I mentioned in my audio recording, groups of more than 5 are not allowed to be in one place. So that means that I had divided the students into 3 groups of 10 each. So that means they'll have to come on a rotational basis and then also wear their masks. Also, we've had to cut down the films. Their films are usually 15 to 17 minutes, but this year we've had to cut them down to 8 minutes so that it fits into the film festival that is coming in September, and it will be done online. So we had to do that in order for them to not to spend too much time in the field and also to avoid crowding. Yes.
It's going to be an exciting month for you, for sure, to manage that. But we're excited about the film festival this year, which is going to take place in September. Traditionally, we've done 1 week in Dadaab, 1 week in Kakuma, and 1 week in Nairobi. But as a result of the pandemic and the lockdown, and also something that we've been talking to Internews about for the last year is how do we make our film festival international and bring in some of the projects in Colombia, in Zimbabwe. Internews does an amazing film project in Iraq over the last year. How do we showcase some of that talent and some of the stories that are coming out of those locations alongside international filmmakers, which is something that we do in our festival in Kenya. So this year we're moving the festival online, and we'll have events. This is kind of a little test case for us. How do we conduct a panel discussion? How do we connect people to the camps, have Q&As with the filmmakers? So I'm glad you mentioned that, Mercy, because people should stay tuned. We'd love to get you involved in the festival in September and in the events leading up to it. And we're as excited as everyone else, I'm sure, to see what the students come up with this year.
Great. Really looking forward to the film festival. And yes, definitely want to see more from the students and partners. Just want to put one more call out if there's any more questions or comments. Fatuma or Mercy, any final comments that you would like to make?
Thank you, Jean. Just I forgot to mention that during my corona update in the camp, unfortunately we had one person lost his life due to coronavirus in Dadaab. It's an unfortunate incident, but the individual had traveled from Somalia. So he was here 8 hours, then he passed on. So by the time they detected that he had coronavirus. His test came back positive, but he lost his life. So at least we had one case of an individual that we lost, unfortunately, due to COVID-19 in the Dadaab refugee camp.
I'm very sorry to hear that.
Thank you.
Mercy, we really appreciated your recording. Any final comments you want to make before we wrap it up here?
Well, mine is just to say thank you for the opportunity and for organizing this. It has been great going through this with you guys. Thank you.
Yeah, well, we really appreciate your work. Keith, final words from you.
I mean, just to reemphasize that we're innovating during this time. As Fatuma mentioned, our staff are on the front lines and are putting themselves at risk. And so we thank the people that are on the call for participating in this update, because that is part of showing the concern for the people that are actually on the ground doing the work. And the last thing is just that we're excited about the film festival and really hope you guys will continue to follow us and tune in for that. So thank you, Jeannie, and thank you everyone for attending today.
Yes, thanks everyone. And I want to repeat what Fatuma said. Communicators, filmmakers, journalists, they are first responders to a crisis like this. They're so critical in the role they play in saving lives through information, through communications. And so we're just so very, very appreciative of the work that Fatuma and her team are doing, that Mercy and her team are doing, that FilmAid is doing around the world. Again, as I said at the top of this, we couldn't be more proud of the partnership that we're growing together. And I really think that together we're going to do great things in the world. So please do follow this. We are very excited about the film festival and very excited to stay engaged with all of you. Thanks for joining us today, and more very soon from us. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.